Hey friends, good morning. We are here with Ken Alfred and myself, Nancy MacDonald, owner and founder of Art Studio for Children, and you are tuning into the S.M.E Stories with Ken Alfred. Welcome.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show. We got a great episode today with Nancy MacDonald. Now, Nancy MacDonald is the founder of the Art Studio for Children. So a little bit about Nancy. Nancy is a public speaker, a recently published co-author of the book Remarkable. Nancy works at embracing a life of surprises, pivots, and shifting expectations to try to find new ways of managing change, challenge, and life's curveballs in both business and in life. Nancy began teaching 6 children around her dining room table and has since had the great privilege of bringing up her love of fine art to over 7,000 artists, young and not so young. So we're going to be interesting to see here. I know our first episode ever was with Sherry Prescott all the way back in episode 1 where we talked about an art studio, but now this is going to be a little bit of a different kind of take. So I'm looking forward to hearing Nancy's stories and all her tips that she's going to help for the aspiring art studio owners. So sit back and absorb. Do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
So, all right, we're going to hear our tips from the pro segment here. So now this is the point where, we have aspiring entrepreneurs that want to follow in Nancy's footsteps, whether it's exactly the same thing or a subset of the art space that they were considering offering or that they're considering to pursue. So, all right. So, the first question though is, Nancy, so how much diversification does someone need if they want to open up their art studio? So should they, only focus on one or two things, or should they kind of branch out and then niche down from what from some people say? So what's your opinion on that?
That is a very, very good question because often we try to be too many things to too many people and we confuse the consumer. We burn out. There's lots of things that can happen as a side effect. However, I think we sometimes need to try different things under the umbrella of our offering. So I think stay open, stay fresh, but stay true to your vision. Very important. Somebody might say to you, listen to your gut. Someone is going to ask you to do something that you don't want to do, that it just doesn't feel like it's within that zone of genius, within that, your strengths. I would avoid that. But I would definitely stay open to the signs around you of what people want. Sometimes we think or we want them to want something. They don't want it. So we really need to pay attention. We need to ask our people the hard questions. Ask our clients, how did this feel? Did you like this experience? Was this what you hoped for? And not run away, but actually listen to the answer and take an indication from what you've heard.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great approach, right? Because, it depends on certain industries. You might say, oh, be super specific because you can't service everybody. But then there's some things like I know art, there's so much interpretation of how it can be, right? So you don't want to say, I only offer painting. Do you do sculpting? No. And what you're saying is be open to it. Now, if it's something like you said, totally that is out of your scope of knowledge or skill set, definitely say no to that. But then this leads me to my next question so how do you keep up with current trends in your space right now? Because, there's so much creativity going on around the world. It doesn't have to be strictly what we think of, oh, just paint to paper kind of thing. There's like other things that people can do, but how do you keep on track of what people want in the art space?
You may or may not think this is a great idea, but I am doing what I want. And I am find the people who want what I want to do are finding me. So that might sound a little simplistic, but if I am going to be sharing my passion, I can't fake that. I have to give a program that makes sense to me. People know what they're going to get with me. Now, having said that, behind me right now is an abstract, large canvas. This is a perfect example, Ken, and I love this as a backdrop. Shortly, it's going to be hung in someone's home. It's almost done. So this client, again, 40 years old, hasn't painted since she was 8, has a yearning, booked a 15-minute discovery call with me. We went over her inspiration, what she's hoping for. I decide, is this something A, I want to do, and B, can I do it? Because I need to offer value. That's my reputation. I want to make sure that I can bring her to the point that she loves what she's going to do with me. And if I can't do it, if somebody says to me, I want to do photorealism, I want to paint something that looks like a photograph, I'm not your person. We mainly are about contrast, color, texture, abstract art, generally speaking. So if I can give you what you want and come up with a lesson plan, that's brilliant. So yes, I do take an indication for the private lessons, the workshops that people are making large canvases with me. You're going to tell me, Ken, this is what I want to do. My wife and I are going to come in. It's going to be a date night. We're going to create a large canvas for our living room. We're going to turn around and people are going to say, where did you get that beautiful piece of art? We're going to be able to say for the first time, maybe, I made it myself.
Oh, wow.
I love that. I love that. I love that moment. So, and this could be a tipping point for you or for someone who hasn't been creative in this way before, to feel our power, to feel our agency, to feel that we can learn new tricks. Love that.
Yeah.
Can't
go wrong with that.
That is a way to own your life. That's a way to lead a more creative life. I don't care whether you're in science, business, you're a math teacher. If you want to create something, I want to lead you through that. Nice.
So, okay, that leads me to the next question here then. So, do I have to be an artist to actually run a studio?
Okay. I thought you were going to say to come and see me.
No.
So that's an important question. Let me ask you, Ken, what is an artist to you? What does it mean to be an artist?
Well, to me, and I'm just going from like the average person here, thinking that when they think of an artist, someone who's been able to create something, whether it's painting, sculptures, different types of things, in order to, to actually start their own studio. And I use this similar example of like, I ask this to sometimes, like my old profession, like I used to teach kickboxing, but I had a few kickboxing instructors on there, and sometimes they have their own gyms. And I said, okay, do you have to be a fighter to actually open up your own gym? Right. It's that whole the quote unquote credibility of it. Like, so if I'm a big 2-time world champion and I decide to open up a gym, then, there's that credibility if I was actually going to train fighters and whatever. But in the art space, I think, I don't know, maybe do most people come to you thinking, okay, they need to have X number of art pieces on display. So I go in there. I don't want to walk into someone's studio and there's really nothing there, right? You see some paint supplies, you might see some, different types of materials, but if you don't see any pieces of work, they're like, you know what I mean? So that's what I kind of mean by artisan.
I think credibility is extraordinarily important. I think there are a lot of hard skills and a lot of soft skills you need to have to do this work, from my perspective. If I didn't have a love of people and a high energy, a love of children for sure, and an ability to translate what I'm doing or what we're doing together to properly articulate and communicate steps, which was really important over Zoom, as you can well imagine, my business would be nowhere. You would have to be, I think, so there's always that question, are you running a arts and crafts hub? Are you running a fine art studio? So mine is more in the fine art arena. I don't really get into crafts very much. So I think you definitely have to have some skill. You have to have a high aesthetic sense. You have to understand color theory. But these things are learnable. They are learnable. And then I think, yeah, absolutely, if I walked into a dentist's office and they didn't have any dental equipment, I'd be really nervous.
Yeah,
what
you
are
just
we
see
doing
pliers and maybe pliers and a hammer. You're like,
here?
yeah,
Exactly. And a door and a
not going to be
string.
on there.
So I think, you need to be surrounded by examples of the work. So one of the things that I do on the Zoom call with a new client, whether they're just looking for group classes for their child or themselves, or they want a private one-on-one or a series of privates, I will get on the Zoom call and I will have examples to show them. Or they'll take a look at my Instagram page, which is, I think, the best gallery I have for the sensibility and the products that we are engaged in here at Art Studio, for sure.
Nice. Interesting. So next question here then. So you talked about your insurance going up. So is there any special insurance to running an art studio?
So my, you need to have corporate liability insurance for sure. I think my insurance is especially expensive because the camp that I run up north, we have a very large, like a 1 acre pond. And so as a result, try to imagine this, Ken. We spend our days doing yoga, painting outside, and swimming in the pond. So it's all easels out on the grass on the property. And we do have an indoor space because we can have rain, obviously, but we basically are spending the entire day outside. So as a
like
result,
a resort almost.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty special. But because of the swimming, obviously, we've never had incident, but
that's good.
You need to have
Knock
that
on wood.
insurance, that extra
Knock on wood.
insurance. Yeah.
Excellent. So last couple of questions before we kind of wrap it up here. So what is your best strategy to deal with, I guess, difficult clients? Like I always ask to all my guests, right? Because in a perfect world, all our clients are great and we never have to deal with any bad ones. So how would you advise the art studio owner that's wanting to be, what's your strategy for dealing with difficult people?
I think it's really important to be able to say no. I think it's real. Like I talk all about say yes to life, say yes to clients. If you can do it, just embrace, lean in. But if you have rules of engagement, and those are not followed, and you are being respectful, which we must be in this world. I mean, we've got to, at the bottom line, we got to have that going. And you're not getting that back, then you need to pointedly ask for it. If the message is still, as we say, if we don't know better, then we can't do better. But once we are enlightened, I expect this from you. This is really important to me. It's one of the rules of engagement in my studio. And if they still, and now they know better and they don't do better, I have not on many occasions, but I have said, I don't think this is working out, and I would give them a refund, and I would say that maybe there's another place for them to be. Um, I
No.
think it's important. I think it's important to be able to say no, and but I think it's important to approach it with compassion. I think that anger or difficult moments can sometimes come up because someone is grieving, someone is hurting, someone has a sick mother or a diagnosis, or there's something with their child. Their child is not. I've been in all of those situations and I am not perfect. So I want to, my first instinct would be remember my moments, and maybe there is that moment with that person. So reach out, grab their arm, say, "Are you doing okay?" First thing. And if it's still difficult, because this is how I need to work and I'm finding it difficult right now, is there something I can help you with? And then so lean in with compassion, reinforce rules of engagement, and then say no if you still can't work in the way that you want to work. I think you need to say goodbye.
Because that's at the end of the day, it's your business, right? This is not a therapy session. You're going to do the best you can to make sure that you have empathy and try to help them out. But if they're still not following your rules,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you're giving them a full refund and saying, maybe this is not the best fit for you, right? And
Yeah.
that's nothing wrong with that, right? So let me ask you a couple of final questions here before we get to the rapid fire round here. So what is the best billing practice that you would advise new studio owners to incorporate? Like a
Did
monthly
you say
fee,
billing? Oh,
billing
billing.
practice.
Billing. Okay.
Yes.
I think you want to keep it simple, stupid, honestly, because pricing is very emotional for people and they want to know exactly what they're getting, and what it includes. And it needs to be fairly consistent, and make some sense. So, with pricing, you need to arrive at your price from a few different angles, right? There's fixed costs, there's variable costs, there's time, there's the admin, there's all those things. And you also have to look at the market, and whether you're going to be top dog, whether you're going to be middle, whether you're going to be more economy priced. But in terms of billing, I would say I go by the term. So the school term, basically, I mimic the school term because extracurriculars are extracurriculars. So I do some one-offs, but generally speaking, it's a 14 or 10-week term based on the way the school year looks. We break at March break. During March break, we do other things. We offer other things, but does that answer a little bit?
Yeah, just because sometimes they might not know, like, do I just bill monthly? Do I just bill them per, some, based on the term you said, right? So is it by that or the one-offs? And so it's a bunch of different things. And obviously, we're going to make sure that obviously people know how to get a hold of you, especially those that might want to have more specific billing questions. Because, like I said, I'm not in that space, so I have no clue how you're supposed to bill, potential clients or actual client themselves, right? So last question on this tip from the pro segment here. How do you balance your work life, especially when you first start out in a studio? What's your best tip for them?
Oh, I balance it badly. I balance it badly. Part of the problem is I love what I do. And as an entrepreneur, it's hard to turn it all off. It seeps into everything. I'm not going to lie. Uh, Fortunately, it's joyful and I love it. But um, it's a very dynamic business, and it's a little bit hard to quiet it. I think there's some work life hygiene that you can follow. Um, Turning off notifications, making sure that your office hours are firm and strict, not answering the phone on the weekend, if you don't recognize it, if it's not your child or your mom. Um, Really being selective. and having boundaries. I think that's the great unprotected border, and you need to do your best by that.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, it's not simple, right? Especially in that new phase where if anyone's calling you, you don't know if that's a potential opportunity, but that then you're kind of setting a precedence for it, right? Then that means that they can
Yes,
get a hold of you
exactly.
anytime, right? So you're just about to lay down in bed, the phone rings or you get the notification, and do you respond or do you not respond or something? That's why my phone right here. Now this is a very big phone, funky phone here. It looks like a BlackBerry, but it's not. But automatically at 10 p.m., it turns into bed mode, which means in this case, I don't see any notifications. The phone doesn't ring, right? And we do have a house phone here, which I know a lot of people don't have, but it's a voice over IP phone. And if, let's say, my mom is calling or there's an emergency or something, that
Hmm.
number can still go off, right? So,
Hmm.
but my own personal or my business phone, we try to keep that there. So let's take a few minutes here before as I know we're getting wrapped up here, but I think, is that a book I see that you were showing earlier? Are you able to give the listeners and viewers a little
Yes.
bit about that? Talk about your book.
Thank you so much. So I joined a coaching community last January, and I thought maybe there's some blind spots in my business and in my working on the business life. So it's with some of the members of that community that we were brought together to write a book about stories from mamapreneurs who have created success despite the odds. And this is a book called Remarkable. It became an Amazon bestseller, which is kind of exciting. And I tell the story. So there are 15 women. We co-authored this book together. And we tell the story of overcoming adversity while launching businesses. So my personal story is I left my marriage at a time when my business was very small, and I needed to make that uh, the primary source of income for myself and my young family. And I didn't believe it could happen, but I asked and I received. It was something else. So that story is in this book, and I think it's got I've got some of my tools to approach business in difficult times, and I think it's a wonderful book about lots of different life moments that are challenging,
Yeah,
and
no,
running a business during that time.
no, that's great, and then we'll make sure we have the Amazon link on the show notes so people can get a copy for it as well. Because you said it's Amazon bestseller, which is great. You know that's
Thank
great.
you.
I'm really glad to hear about that. Maybe I should read, even though I'm not a mompreneur, but I'm sure the stories can almost relate to just any average person who wants to start something, right?
I think that it's human interest at a minimum, whether you're an
Excellent.
entrepreneur or not. I think it's inspiring because let's face it, life's going to throw us curveballs, and we need to keep marching forward. And there are people if we have families that are looking to us to get through life situations and do our best.
Oh, that's great.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Now it's time for the rapid fire round.
All right, let's wrap up some fun stuff here with a rapid fire round. So this is where we ask a bunch of questions. And Nancy, I don't know if you've heard some of these questions before. I don't know if you've listened to any of my episodes before. There are a couple that are usually standard that I like to ask, but I'll just start with a different one here. So what would the 15-year-old self be? What did you think your 15-year-old self would be doing right now?
Oh my goodness. I did think I would be working with children, actually. I did think that.
Could be like a
Uh,
teacher or some type of an instructor of some kind, eh?
Something like that. And I didn't expect that I would be such a good business person at 15. I didn't know that.
Wow. Okay, good to know. All right, and speaking of attack, to add on to that, what posters did you have on your bedroom walls actually when you were 15?
Oh my gosh. Uh, 15. Hmm. Well, okay, so this is going to really date me if I haven't already, but I'd say if you could say 10, David
Okay,
Cassidy, Bobby Sherman, you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't
Bobby
know.
Cassidy. Interesting. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so now this next one here. Now I haven't asked this question in a while. Is cereal a soup? Yes or no?
I don't know what that question means. You're going to have to help me.
All right, so is cereal a soup? It's a bit of a controversy. Some people say yes, it is a soup. Other people say no. Why or
I'd
why
say
not?
no. I'm going to say no.
You gotta defend your position. Why not?
Well, for me, soup is something that fortifies you. It's going to generally be hot. And now you could have hot cereal, but I actually, soup was really important to me as a single mom. I'm remarried, but I wanted to be working in the studio when my kids got home from school and have warm soup on the back of the stove. Not cereal, Ken. Not
Not
cereal.
cereal. Okay. You know who had the biggest struggle with this question, Nancy? Chefs. When I had a couple of chefs on the show, they were like, "Yeah, no, it's not cereal's not a soup because it has to be hot." And then they said, "Oh, wait a minute, I know like 4 or 5 dishes that are cold soups." And then so you can see the thing going through their mind. They're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because they're specially trained, so it kind of throws them for a monkey wrench into their plans. Okay, next question here: what is the worst and best sequel movie ever made?
Oh, wow. Uh, hmm. The worst
This is a
and
new
best.
question. I haven't asked this before. People have heard me say, "What's the worst sequel ever made?" But I'm now throwing it in. What's the best?
Ken, I feel
Yeah,
unprepared. I'm so sorry. I
it's
cannot
okay.
think of that. And it's funny, we talk about favorite movies all the time, but sequel, gosh, let me ask you, what's your favorite? What's best and
I'll tell
worst?
you this.
I'm
I'll tell you the
sorry, I'm
worst.
lost.
So listeners have heard me say this before. Worst sequel ever made. I'll say it's Mortal Kombat 2. I saw the original Mortal Kombat back in 1995. It was the first movie, and it's based off the video game. For those listeners that don't know what Mortal Kombat is, it's based off of a fighting video game that was really popular in the mid 90s. They came out with a movie, and it was the first movie, Nancy, that I ever wanted to go back to the theater twice to watch it. So I was very excited when it first came out. I saw it again, and then I didn't find out. And then I think they tried to make another sequel, but then half or three-quarters of the main characters were recast, and it just didn't make any sense. It was a really bad movie, and the critics don't like it, and neither do I. I would say the best sequel. You know what? I'm a comedy guy. I love like the raunchy comedy stuff. So it's a toss up between Austin Powers 2 and Anchorman 2 compared to the previous one. So now a lot of people say, "Oh my God, those aren't like classics." No, they're not classics, not by a long shot. But in terms of when I think of movies that are made and then sequels of them, I try to see, okay, was the sequel better than the first? Those are my two picks. Have you had enough time to think of yours, Nancy?
No, I got nothing. I'm sorry. I got
Okay, then
nothing.
forget it. Let's go back. Best movie and worst movie.
Best movie. Well, one of my favorites is very, very, very old. It's called The Apartment. I highly recommend
Okay.
it. Jack Lemmon.
Oh,
Um,
I know Jack Lemmon.
and that's one of my favorites. I also love The Unbearable Lightness of Being, based on a
Oh,
book by Milan Kundera.
mhm.
These are niche. Okay, I'm going to tell you they're niche. Worst movie, there's too many to count, but I don't watch them. I don't watch them. I'm really stingy with my time. I just do not turn this over to just anything.
Anything.
So if
Okay.
I choose something, it's because I've done some research or I mean, that sounds a little stuffy, but I'm not saying I don't like light things. But I'm not going to watch it if I pretty much know I'm not going to like it.
Yeah, and I'll throw one other movie that I really hated. Do you remember those scary movies the scary movies where they kind of make fun of like the most popular movies of the time? Well, not scary movie. I actually didn't mind them. There was this one movie that they tried to do. It was called. Remember that March of the Penguins movie that was out?
The
It's
like
the
the planet,
the
the
actual
Happy Planet. Yeah.
not the Happy Planet, but it was actually like a
Oh.
documentary of the journey of
Oh yes,
penguins, and
yes.
so they did something called I guess Rise of the Spartans, but also based off the movie 300. Right, so they tried to make it like a scary movie-ish with this thing, and I watched it. I downloaded it. I downloaded it illegally, maybe not, and I tried watching it. I could only last the first 5 minutes, and I was like, no, even this is too, isn't even that's too stupid for me, right? Because you know I couldn't do it, and I like lighthearted, silly movies sometimes, but even that was too much. Nancy, I'm like,
You got to
no,
abandon ship if it's
abandon
wasting
ship.
your time. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
All right. Last few questions here. What is one subscription you cannot live without?
Uh, our meal kits. I'll be honest.
Oh yeah, which one?
We use good food.
Okay. And is it fully? Is it all the ingredients are there? All you gotta do is
Yeah,
cook it.
yeah, yeah. It
Wow.
just removes some extra tasks in life.
Yeah,
We
the
don't do
prep
all our
work is
meals that way.
always. Yeah.
It's just can't do everything. And I think it's really
Yeah.
important as entrepreneurs and as busy people to not pretend that you made that thing if you didn't make that thing,
Hmm.
because it perpetuates a myth that we can do it all. We can't do it all. We need help.
No.
We need help.
Exactly. No, that's great. That's good to know. All right. Last couple questions here. All right. If you could have a sandwich, what is on it, and what would it be
Ooh.
called?
Do you know what? It's August. We're outside, and there are fresh tomatoes from the garden in August. You know the
Okay.
ones. They're juicy. They taste great. They're sliced thin, but there's lots of them. It's got some mayo, some lettuce, a little bit of red onion, and maybe a strong cheddar. That's my sandwich.
On what type of bread?
Oh, very
I'm
important.
very
Let's see.
specific
It's
with
gonna
this.
be my husband makes homemade bread at the farm, so I'm gonna say the homemade bread,
And what
homemade
would it be
cracked
called?
wheat bread.
And what would it be called?
It would be called the world's best tomato sandwich.
Put it on a shirt. Love it. Love it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
final question here. What is your theme song and why? So when that song hits, you're walking down the street, that song hits, people know Nancy's coming.
Never give up. I also like Rise Up. I like Rise Up too. I just think,
Nice.
you know what? I'm a really firm believer in anthems. I think that they pull us up when we need them. So you got to choose them very carefully. I'm kind of always changing them though too.
That's okay. You don't have to have one. Like you said, it depends on your mood, right? I noticed for me, if I wanted to get angry, let's say I was angry, I just wanted to feel that anger just for a little bit, I'll put on some hardcore rap just to make me thinking, because I'm thinking, wow, they're very angry. I can't be that angry if they're that angry. So then it cheers me up in a way. But that's only if I get angry, which I don't get very much. But no, that's great to hear. So where can people find you and reach out to you?
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. So my website is www.artstudioforchildren.com. And I think you'll find it really easy to navigate. I am on Instagram at Art Studio for Children. I also have a collection of wearable art. So we take the art and we put it on clothing and accessories, and that is called Nance Romance. So that's www.nanceromance.com, or on Instagram at nanceromance.to.
Wow, that's really great to hear. And like I said, guys, so I'm talking to listeners and viewers here. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on all your major podcast players. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, you name it, you can find it. So please make sure you like and follow this. So this is Nancy MacDonald, and I'm Ken Alfred. Thanks for being on the show, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Do you have a small business story to share? The S.M.E Stories podcast is looking for entrepreneurs to share their tales of success, failure, and everything. If you're interested in being a guest on our show or know someone would be a great fit, please contact us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. That's northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.